I can't get into a group because my score isn't high enough, but I can't get my score high enough because I can't enter a group. Wow, that's almost like getting a job as a 20-year-old in the modern day society. Mira, it's me. Today we're going to be looking at Raider.io and how it has ruined World of Warcraft. Now, it didn't occur to me that there was quite a significant amount of the population who actually see this as a very detrimental aspect to, community, to progress for your character in game, but there's a lot of people who take issue with this add-on. So I thought today I'm going to address some of these concerns and break them down one at a time and look at the pros and cons of the add-on. So for those of you who have been living under a rock for the last 350 million expansions or something, you may not be aware of the fact that there is an add-on that can attach a score or a number to your progression based off of your Mythic Plus performance. Pretty much, the higher the score, the better you are at the game. Simple enough, right? There's gonna be some issues with that, which we'll look into when we talk about the cons of the system, but that's kind of roughly the idea you should be getting from IO. The bigger the number, the bigger your personal thing is. Isn't that why we play this game? I thought it was like self-projection of our genitals. Is that just me? If you start a +10 Ataldazar key and someone joins up with 200 score and their best time is a failed 7 freehold, then you can assume that they maybe aren't really best equipped to join your group. If someone, however, joins your group with 1100 IO score, having done a +11 Ataldazar with a 2 chest, well, that's a perfectly reasonable candidate to join your group and do your weekly cash at. It is a very simple and easy way to be able to vet and check out just exactly whether people will perform in the dungeon you're about to do. It sets the expectations, you're able to tell just exactly what you should be expecting when you come to this dungeon, and moreover, you can get a good idea of where you're going to be ending with. Is it a +3, is it a +2, or is it a deplete? Quote method Josh, if depleted. It's just like, a job or something. You can tell by their experience in the industry, you can look at the qualifications, side projects they might have had, and then you can tell whether or not they'll be a good candidate for your company or something. If they've been in jail for the last 3 years and are smoking doobs while playing on Xbox, chances are they probably aren't going to be a great system admin for your IT corporation. Actually, I'm pretty sure that's all system admins do. Now for cons, I think that there's more numerical amount of points to have for cons of the system, but I think that these are more criticisms of the system in place by Blizzard more so than the add-on itself. But let's just start first of all with the first point that I have here, and that you don't really have a chance to prove yourself. It's the paradox that I mentioned at the beginning. You try to get a job, but you can't get the job because you don't have experience. You need experience to get the job. It's the endless cycle of, well, go work for free as an intern or something. So because you don't have a chance to prove yourself, you can't really get into a group to start raising your IO score and grinding the keys out to be able to climb slowly and slowly up the ladder, so you can get roughly about 1,000, which I guess labels you as not a dribbler. Kind of just competent. 4 digits means you're probably functioning, which is kind of literally all you need to be able to do Mythic Plus. So I think that this can hurt casual players who don't probably play as much or don't at least grind Mythic Plus as far as others do, because, well, if they simply only do a +10 cash once a week for the item, they're gonna have a really poor score. There are people in my guild, for example, literally with like 700 IO, and well, that's because they just simply do the weekly. Like, they aren't interested in pushing high keys, they aren't interested in farming out their score. So that goes on to my next point here, and it's like numbers don't really mean anything, in the sense that someone with 1,000 score is probably gonna be better than someone with 500. However, it's not always going to be the case. There are really good players who probably don't even have over 500 IO because, I don't know, they're gladiators and they PvP instead and they do like 110 a week or something. Like, you can't tell these things. They could have been boosted, which is an issue with the system as well, but I just want to make an addendum here that in order to get roughly about 4 digits on your score, you are gonna be having to pay like millions of gold to get boosted through every single dungeon in the game at the +10 level. But boosting is a thing, and a good way to check that out is just look at the person's profile. If they have a +10 like at a 2 chest, and then the next best key after that is like a depleted 4, chances are they've got more money than brains. And the final point that I want to mention as well is that it only records the top 500 for that server, for your class, etc. Now, if you rank underneath the top 500, that means you simply won't get a score added to that. You could literally do a +11 in time and not get ranked if you're on a super high populated server doing it later in the week. The way the system works is that it takes the top 500 for that dungeon across the board And if you rank underneath that, well, there you go, you don't get a score for that. So people on high pop realms who don't play often and who don't really push Mythic Plus that much, you're going to be struggling the most. However, again, I want to mention is that this is Blizzard's limitation in that they choose to only record the top 500 on the leaderboard rather than it being a limitation of Raider.io as an add-on. So I'd like to conclude this by saying that overall, I think the add-on is extremely positive and it's a very good way to tell who's joining your group, what to expect from the people in your group, but it does have its problems and it does have its flaws. So make sure you read between the lines and you maybe look a little bit deeper into the person's IO page and stuff like that. And remember that numbers don't always tell the full story. The fact of the matter is, if someone with 1200 queues up to your 10 key and someone with 900 queues up to your 10 key, it's kind of a no-brainer who you're gonna pick there. Like, unless you know the people personally, like, the best way to go off it is simply off of a number. I'll be doing a video in the future talking about eye level and why you can't get into group and what you can do to help yourself get into a group based on what I just said there. But overall, there you go. That's my discussion on Raider.io. Until next time, my name has been HeyMiruh.